In the shadows of the United Nations headquarters, Secretary General Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the microphone. The world's media had gathered for what would become the most significant press conference in human history. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows, highlighting the beads of sweat on her forehead. 3 days ago, humanity had received its first contact from an advanced civilization, but not in the way anyone had expected. There were no massive ships hovering over major cities, no radio signals from distant stars, and no mysterious artifacts discovered on the moon. Instead, it came in the form of a simple quantum transmission that simultaneously appeared on every major military and scientific installation across the globe. The message was clear and concise. Earth was now under quarantine. The Galactic Empire, a confederation of over 10,000 spacefaring species, had declared our solar system a restricted zone. Their reason? They found us too unpredictable, too dangerous to be allowed into the greater galactic community. "Ladies and gentlemen of the press," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation, "what I'm about to share will reshape our understanding of humanity's place in the universe." The room fell silent, save for the rapid clicking of cameras. The transmission had included detailed records of their observations of Earth spanning the last century. They had watched as we split the atom, walked on the moon, and developed artificial intelligence. But what truly frightened them wasn't our technological progress, it was our resilience. While other species took thousands of years to advance through similar technological stages, humanity had done it in mere centuries. Our ability to adapt, to survive, to thrive in the face of adversity had marked us as an anomaly. The Galactic Empire's xenanthropologists had noted with alarm how humans could transform any environment to suit their needs, how we could recover from devastating setbacks, and how we seemed to grow stronger when faced with challenges that would have broken other species. "They fear us," Sarah continued, her words echoing through the dead silent chamber, "not for what we are, but for what we might become." She paused, letting the weight of those words sink in. The assembled journalists leaned forward in their seats, fingers hovering over keyboards. The quarantine was to be enforced by a network of automated defense platforms already positioned at the edge of our solar system. Any attempt to venture beyond Mars would be met with immediate interception. We were effectively grounded on our own planet, confined to our cosmic backyard by a civilization that saw us as too volatile to join their ranks. But there was something they hadn't counted on. The very trait that made them fear us would be their undoing. Humanity had never taken kindly to being told what we couldn't do. Already, scientists and engineers around the world were poring over the quantum transmission data, reverse engineering the advanced technology embedded within the message itself. Sarah gripped the edges of the podium, her knuckles whitening. "They may have declared Earth off limits," she said, her voice growing stronger with each word, "but they've made a crucial mistake. They've shown us that we're not alone, that faster-than-light travel is possible, and most importantly, they've shown us that they're afraid." As murmurs rippled through the crowd, Sarah prepared to reveal the final piece of information, the part that would change everything. But before she could speak, every screen in the room suddenly flickered to life with an incoming transmission. The Galactic Empire, it seemed, had more to say. The screens crackled with static before resolving into a crystalline clarity that no Earth-based technology could achieve. The figure that appeared wasn't alien in the way science fiction had conditioned humanity to expect. Instead, it looked surprisingly human-like, save for the iridescent sheen of their skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. "People of Earth," the figure spoke in perfect English, though their lips moved in patterns that didn't match the words. "We have observed your response to our quarantine declaration with great interest." The being's voice carried an odd resonance that made Sarah's teeth ache. "Your immediate efforts to circumvent our restrictions have only confirmed the necessity of our actions." The assembled journalists sat frozen, their recording devices capturing every word of this unprecedented moment. Sarah remained at the podium, her prepared speech forgotten as she, like everyone else, stared at the screens in rapt attention. However, the figure continued, "We have also detected something unexpected. In the mere 72 hours since our initial contact, Your species has already begun to decipher aspects of our quantum transmission technology. This grade of advancement is," they paused, their galaxy eyes swirling with what might have been concern, "unprecedented." The pride that swelled in Sarah's chest was tempered by the growing realization that humanity might have just confirmed the Empire's fears. She glanced at her tablet, where classified reports were still streaming in. Research teams from Beijing to Boston had been working around the clock, and they had already replicated small-scale quantum transmissions using principles gleaned from the alien message. "We are therefore amending our original declaration," the figure announced. "The quarantine will now extend to all forms of quantum communication. Any attempt to establish such channels will be considered a hostile act." The being's skin rippled with patterns of light that seemed to convey emotions beyond human comprehension. But it was what happened next that sent shockwaves through the assembled crowd. As if responding to some unseen signal, every electronic device in the room began displaying streams of data, complex mathematical formulae, engineering schematics, and what appeared to be star charts. For exactly 3 seconds, this torrent of information flooded every screen before vanishing completely. The alien figure showed no reaction to this apparent breach in their own transmission. "This quarantine is for your protection as much as ours," they continued, but Sarah barely heard the words. She was too busy watching the expressions of the scientists in the room, their faces lit with the kind of excitement that came from glimpsing something revolutionary. Dr. Patel, head of the UN's newly formed Xenotechnology Division, was already furiously scribbling notes. His hands were shaking, but his eyes blazed with determination. Sarah knew that look. It was the same one that had led humanity to split the atom, decode DNA, and reach for the stars. The transmission continued, outlining additional restrictions and consequences, but there was an undercurrent of uncertainty in the alien's voice now. Perhaps they had realized their mistake. In trying to contain humanity, they had given us exactly what we needed: a challenge, a target, and most importantly, proof that their technology could be compromised. As the alien figure prepared to deliver what appeared to be their final warning, Sarah noticed something else. In the corner of her tablet, a simple message appeared. "Signal source located. They're closer than they claimed." The sender was listed only as Project Oracle, a classified initiative she'd authorized just hours after the first contact. The game was changing, and humanity was already several moves ahead. The question wasn't whether we would break the quarantine, but how soon. The alien transmission had ended 2 weeks ago, but humanity's response was just beginning. In the depths of a reproposed nuclear bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Paddle stood before a wall of holographic displays, each showing a different piece of the puzzle they'd assembled from those 3 precious seconds of leaked data. They made 2 critical mistakes, he explained to Sarah, who had flown in under the cover of darkness. First, they assumed we couldn't process information as quickly as we did. Second, they didn't realize we'd already been experimenting with quantum entanglement. His fingers danced across the displays, bringing up a series of test results that made Sarah's eyes widen. Project Oracle had evolved far beyond its initial purpose of tracking alien signals. The leaked data had contained fragments of the Empire's propulsion technology, their communication protocols, and most importantly, their defense platform specifications. Humanity hadn't just been given a glimpse of advanced technology. We'd been handed the keys to our own prison. "We're detecting increased activity at the edge of the solar system," Lieutenant Riley reported, her voice tense as she monitored the deep space arrays. "The defense platforms are repositioning." The room fell silent as everyone watched the tactical display, where dozens of red dots shifted like pieces on an invisible chessboard. Sarah's tablet buzzed with an urgent message from the Chinese Space Agency. Their quantum sensors had detected something else: microscopic anomalies in space-time, spreading like a web throughout the solar system. The Empire wasn't just watching anymore, they were preparing for something. "They know," Dr. Paddle whispered, his face illuminated by the shifting displays. "They've realized what we're about to attempt." He pulled up a simulation of their plan. Operation Breakout. Months of work compressed into a single, audacious move that would either free humanity from its cosmic cage or prove the Empire right about our reckless nature. The prototype ship sat ready in a hidden facility beneath the lunar surface, its quantum drive powered by principles reverse engineered from the Empire's own technology. But it wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's declaration of independence, built in secret by a coalition of nations who had set aside their differences in the face of a common restriction. "Director Chen," a voice called out. A young technician approached with a tablet displaying a decoded transmission. "We're picking up chatter between the defense platforms. They're discussing something called the Omega Protocol." The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Sarah's hands clenched into fists as she made the decision they'd all been waiting for. "How long until the ship is ready?" she asked, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. Dr. Paddle checked his calculations one final time. 20 minutes to power up. But he hesitated, glancing at the tactical display where more defense platforms were appearing. "If we're going to do this, it has to be now. They're establishing a quantum containment field around Earth's orbit." The room erupted into controlled chaos as final preparations began. But amidst the activity, Sarah noticed something odd on one of the secondary monitors. The quantum anomalies weren't just spreading, they were forming a pattern. And according to the analysis software, that pattern was beginning to look remarkably like. Before she could complete the thought, every alarm in the facility began blaring at once. The Empire had made its move, and humanity's response would determine not just our future, but our very right to exist among the stars. The quantum anomaly pattern suddenly crystallized on the display. It was a DNA helix, but not just any DNA. It was distinctly human, rotating in the vast space between Earth and Mars. Lieutenant Riley's hands flew across her console, running analysis after analysis. "It's not just a pattern," she breathed. "It's a message, in our own genetic code." Before anyone could process this revelation, Dr. Patel's quantum sensors detected something that should have been impossible. The defense platforms weren't just establishing a containment field. They were synchronizing with identical frequencies found naturally occurring in human brain waves. The Empire hadn't chosen Earth for quarantine by chance. They'd been studying us for far longer than anyone had imagined. "We need to abort the launch," one of the scientists shouted, but Sarah held up her hand. 20 years of diplomatic service had taught her to recognize patterns, and something about this felt different from a simple containment protocol. The Empire's actions were too specific, too precisely aligned with human biology to be merely restrictive. "Show me the original transmission again," she commanded. As the recording played, she focused not on the alien figure's words, but on the background. There, almost invisible, was a symbol she'd seen before, in ancient cave paintings her team had documented years ago in South America. The pieces were starting to fit together, forming a picture that seemed almost too incredible to believe. "Dr. Patel," she called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. "What if the quarantine isn't meant to keep us in?" The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. What if it's meant to keep something else out? As if in response to her question, the quantum sensors suddenly detected massive energy signatures materializing just beyond the defense platform perimeter. But these weren't Empire ships. The energy patterns were completely unknown, radiating a type of power that made the Empire's technology look primitive in comparison. Lieutenant Riley's console erupted with new data. "The defense platforms. They're not targeting us anymore. They're realigning to face outward." The tactical display transformed as dozens of red dots shifted their orientation, forming a protective barrier around Earth's solar system. The DNA helix pattern in space began to pulse, broadcasting a new message. As the computers decoded it, Dr. Patel's face went pale. "It's not just a message," he whispered. "It's a warning. According to this, humanity isn't just another species. We're carrying something in our genetic code that the Empire has been protecting for millions of years." The bunker's main screen flickered to life once more, but this time the figure that appeared was different. Their eyes didn't hold galaxies. They held something far more familiar. They looked human, ancient, and modern all at once. "Children of Earth," the figure spoke, their voice carrying the weight of eons. "The time of preparation is over. What sleeps in your DNA must now awaken." Sarah watched as new data poured in from observatories around the world. The unknown energy signatures were multiplying, surrounding the solar system like predators circling their prey. But the Empire's defense platforms stood firm, their quantum fields strengthening with each passing second. The quarantine, Dr. Paddle said slowly, it was never about containing us. It was about protecting us until we were ready. You look at the prototype ship, its quantum drive humming with power. The question is, ready for what? The answer came in the form of a blinding flash from the lunar surface where their prototype ship sat. But the energy wasn't coming from the ship's drive. It was coming from within the hull itself, resonating with something that had been dormant in every human being since the dawn of our species. The prototype ship's hull began to glow with an inner light that matched the pulse of the DNA helix floating in space. Dr. Patel's instruments showed something extraordinary. The quantum resonance was spreading, not just through the ship, but through every human being on Earth. People across the globe reported feeling a strange warmth, a connection to something vast and ancient stirring within them. The ship, Lieutenant Riley gasped, it's not just technology, it's alive. The metal itself was transforming, responding to the genetic code that had laid dormant within humanity for millennia. What they had thought was a spacecraft was actually a key, designed to unlock something far more powerful than mere interstellar travel. The ancient figure on the screen spoke again, their voice carrying both pride and urgency. Your species was never meant to be confined to one world. You are the inheritors of a legacy far older than the Empire itself. Within each of you lies the power to reshape reality. What you call human adaptability is merely the surface of your true potential. Sarah felt it then, a surge of understanding that went beyond words. Images flashed through her mind. Ancient civilizations seeding Earth with modified human DNA, the Empire rising to protect this experiment, and a darker force that sought to harvest this power for itself. The unknown entities surrounding their solar system weren't just enemies. They were the very reason humanity had been created. The tactical display suddenly showed the defense platforms changing in impossible ways. They weren't just machines. They were extensions of human consciousness, responding to the awakening power within Earth's population. Dr. Patel's readings confirmed what they were all beginning to understand. Humanity wasn't just breaking out of a quarantine. We were emerging from a cocoon. "They're here," Lieutenant Riley announced, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were witnessing. The dark entities had begun their assault, their energy weapons striking against the Empire's defenses. But something unexpected happened. Each attack was met not just by the platforms, but by waves of pure consciousness emanating from Earth itself. The prototype ship, now more organism than machine, lifted off from the lunar surface without any physical propulsion. It moved with purpose, guided by the collective will of humanity. As it reached the edge of the defense perimeter, it began to multiply, splitting into thousands of identical vessels, each one piloted by pure thought. We were never meant to fight them alone, Sarah realized, watching as Empire ships emerged from quantum space, fighting alongside humanity's newborn fleet. The quarantine wasn't about containment. It was about incubation. The dark entities, faced with the combined might of humanity's awakened potential and the Empire's advanced technology, began to retreat. But in their withdrawal, they revealed one final, terrible truth. In the space behind them lay the ruins of countless other worlds, failed experiments in creating what humanity had become. Dr. Patel's console displayed the final decoded message from the ancient figure, and Sarah read it aloud to the stunned room. "You were not the first attempt, but you will be the last. The power to prevent the heat death of the universe lies not in technology, but in consciousness itself. Your species is the key to preserving all of existence." As the last of the dark entities vanished into the depths of space, the DNA helix above Earth pulsed one final time before dissolving into a shower of quantum particles. These particles rained down upon the planet, not as a threat, but as a gift, the full activation of humanity's true inheritance. The Empire's quarantine lifted, but not as an ending. Instead, it marked humanity's first step into a much larger role in the cosmos. The defense platforms, now fully integrated with human consciousness, took on a new purpose, not to keep humanity in, but to serve as the foundation for something far greater: Earth's transformation into the newest and most powerful member of the Galactic Empire. Sarah looked at her colleagues, seeing in their eyes the same understanding that coursed through her. The true journey was just beginning, and humanity's declaration of no entry had become something else entirely, a declaration of emergence. 1 year after humanity's awakening, Sarah stood at the same United Nations podium where this journey had begun. The room had changed. Crystalline quantum interfaces now merge seamlessly with the traditional architecture, and delegates from over 50 alien species sat alongside their human counterparts. But the biggest changes weren't physical. Earth had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history, not just a member of the Empire, but a bridge between consciousness and technology. The defense platforms, guided by humanity's collective will, had become known as the Consciousness Network, a new form of space exploration that united mind and machine. In the past year, Sarah addressed the assembly, her voice carrying to every corner of Earth through the quantum resonance they now all shared. We've helped stabilize 3 dying stars, prevented 2 interstellar wars through consciousness intervention, and begun teaching other species how to access their own dormant genetic potential. She paused, allowing a small smile. Not bad for a species that was under quarantine. Dr. Patel, now heading the Galactic Scientific Exchange, stepped forward to present his findings. The dark entities that had threatened Earth hadn't been destroyed. They'd been transformed. Their energy, once hostile, had been redirected through human consciousness to help power the very mechanisms preventing universal entropy. Humanity's greatest enemies had become tools in the fight to preserve existence itself. Lieutenant Riley, commanding the first consciousness-guided fleet, reported from a quantum projection beside the podium. Her ships had discovered more failed experiment worlds, but rather than finding only ruins, they were slowly restoring these planets using humanity's unique ability to adapt and rebuild. Life was returning to worlds long thought dead. The prototype ship that had started it all now sat in a museum on Luna, a reminder of how close humanity had come to fighting against the very quarantine that had protected us. But its legacy lived on in the new vessels that crossed the galaxy, ships that were neither fully organic nor mechanical, but a perfect blend of both. We've learned that power isn't about dominance, Sarah continued, her words echoing through the quantum network that connected all of humanity. It's about transformation. The Empire didn't restrict us. They nurtured us, and now it's our turn to nurture others. The ancient figure whose warnings had guided them appeared one final time, not on screens, but as a shared consciousness projection visible to all. You have exceeded every expectation, they said, their form shifting between human and alien aspects. The universe faces its greatest challenge, entropy itself, but in your species' unique blend of adaptability, consciousness, and determination, we find hope. As the figure faded, Sarah looked out at the assembled delegates, both human and alien. The quarantine that had seemed like a restriction had been the universe's way of protecting its last, best hope. Humanity hadn't just earned its place among the stars. We had discovered our true purpose as guardians of existence itself. The Sci may have said no entry, Sarah concluded, her words carrying the weight of humanity's new understanding. But what it really meant was not yet. Now, as we stand at the beginning of this new era, we don't just enter the galactic community. We help guide it toward a future none of us could have imagined alone. Above Earth, the defense platforms continued their eternal vigilance, no longer as barriers, but as beacons, calling out to all species ready to join humanity in its grand purpose. The universe had gambled everything on the human experiment, and for once, chaos and determination had combined to create something beautiful, a species capable of preserving the very fabric of existence itself. In the end, Earth's declaration of no entry had become a declaration of infinite possibility, and humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning.